As Jose Malena slipped on his overalls, he thought it would just be another day at the tuna processing plant. He kissed his wife goodbye and headed to work. But Jose would never come home. Instead, he suffered an agonizing death inside an industrial oven. In today's episode of the Infographic Show, we're looking at one of the worst deaths in the history of mankind, when a missing employee was discovered inside a tuna pressure cooker. Jose Malena is a 62-year-old father of 6 kids, making his living working as a machine operator for Bumble Bee Foods in Santa Fe Springs. They were mostly known for producing canned tuna, as well as salmon and other seafood products. Jose had been working an early morning shift on the 11th of October 2012 and was sent to complete a task over in the pressure cooking and sterilization section of Bumble Bee's processing plant. Picture a big warehouse filled with lots and lots of huge cylindrical ovens. These ovens weren't like the kind you have at home, but were instead large steam pressure cookers that were used to both sterilize and cook tuna in the aluminum cans before making their way to the grocery store shelves. Jose had been assigned the relatively simple task of taking carts full of canned tuna and placing them inside the oven. Typically, the inlet and outlet doors of the retort would be opened up, as the large perforated carts were pushed inside using a pallet jack, where a chain runs underneath the row of carts. It was Jose's job to latch the chain onto the very last cart. This allowed the tuna carts to be pulled from the inlet side of the retort out of the outlet side once they'd all been cooked. The tuna cans would be removed out of the retort by the chain, and then the whole process would be reset, ready for the next load. But being an industrial plant, things never ran smoothly. Sometimes the chain could get stuck, snagged, or bunched up. This meant that the employee who was operating the retort would have to climb inside the industrial oven and untangle the chain. After giving Jose the job of loading up one of the retorts, a manager at the Bumble Bee plant came across an unusual sight. He found a pallet jack and several carts of uncooked tuna at the front of the retort. The inlet door was wide open, as it should have been ahead of loading, but the outlet door on the other side was closed. Jose Malena was nowhere to be seen. The manager assumed Jose had either gone to the bathroom without telling anyone, or he just left his job unfinished for someone else to take care of. Not wanting to disrupt the production line, the supervisor found another employee and told him to finish the task. Then the supervisor strode off to go find Jose. What he failed to realize was Jose was inside the oven. While it's not entirely known why he went inside the retort, it seems likely Jose was shutting the outlet door to speed up the loading process and noticed the chain had gotten stuck. He would have then had to free it. But surely someone would have noticed Jose was in there. Well, let's take a closer look at the retorts Bumble Bee were using. These industrial pressure cookers are designed for huge quantities of tuna, around 6 tons per oven, so in order to fit in that much tuna, the retorts are around 35 feet long. To put it plainly, nobody knew where Jose Malena was, because he was at the far end of a tube that's about the 10th the size of an American football field. It's also worth noting that this is why both the inlet and the outlet doors were meant to be open as the retort was loaded up. Bumble Bee had procedures for staff working in confined spaces at their facilities, especially since specific permits are usually required for this type of work. But therein lay the problem. The retorts themselves weren't considered to be confined spaces under the company's procedures. They were equipment, outdated equipment. Newer versions of the retorts didn't require employees to actually get inside them. This also meant that there was nothing in Bumble Bee's company policies about how to safely operate the retorts, and instructions on doing so were passed on by word of mouth rather than by written procedures from the company. Having been instructed by the supervisor to finish Jose's task, the coworker started to load the retort. He hadn't thought to check inside the enormous oven first, assuming, like his boss did, that Jose was in the bathroom. Inside the retort, Jose suddenly found his way out of the huge oven blocked by 12,000 pounds of uncooked canned tuna being pushed toward him. With no way to open the outlet door from the inside of the oven, Jose was trapped inside. The inlet door was sealed behind the last cart in the row, and with it Jose's Grizzly Fate. At 9 minutes past 5 that morning, another Bumble Bee employee turned on the steam pressure. Inside the industrial-strength oven, the temperature climbed to 270 degrees Fahrenheit over the course of almost 2 hours. He received horrific thermal burns while trapped inside the retort, as he screamed for his life, banging on the inner walls of the oven. Eventually, the metal would be too hot to touch, the burns and blisters on his skin agonizing. The sheer pain of being cooked by searing steam pressure would likely have sent 62-year-old Jose into shock. Although even if he'd been younger, the chances of him surviving the ordeal weren't all that much higher. The supervisor who'd ordered the other worker to continue loading the retort quickly realized that Jose hadn't been seen by any other employees. With one of their workers seemingly having gone missing, an announcement went out over the facility's intercom to search the warehouse from top to bottom for Jose. But there was no sign of him. At 6:43, the supervisor realized something was very, very wrong and ordered the retorts turned off so that a proper search could be conducted. Emergency services were contacted, and local police responders alongside members of Whittier Fire Department began to scour the facility. When they came to a sealed retort, they opened up the inlet and the outlet doors, and they had found Jose Malena, unresponsive. He was pronounced dead at the scene. He had been cooked alive. The following year, Bumble Bee would be fined less than $75,000 and charged with 6 separate safety violations that resulted in Jose's death. The company had willfully violated worker safety rules, and the result was the gruesome death of one of their employees. Hun Chung, the deputy district attorney at the Consumer Protection Division, described it as one of the worst circumstances of death that he had ever witnessed. I think any person would prefer to be, if they had to die some way, would prefer to be shot or stabbed than to be slowly cooked in an oven. Bumble Bee would later pay $1.5 million in restitution to Jose Melena's family, as well as an additional $750,000 in combined fines, penalties, and court costs. Forced to change the way they operated their processing plants, Bumble Bee also paid $3 million to replace their industrial steam pressure ovens with the newer models so that employees wouldn't have to step inside, a change that could have been made without the need for a man to lose his life. Now go check out Surviving Most Extreme Mega Tsunami in Modern History, True Story, or click this other video instead.